Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our digital live. My name is Nora, and I'm one of the field managers for the Digital Summer Clinic. And I'm joined with Justice, another field manager. And today we're talking to Nick Woods. Thank you, Nick, for joining, and thank you for everyone watching as well. We're excited to chat with everyone. To everyone watching, please comment your questions for the Q&A later in the chat.
Welcome, Nick. And just for our viewers watching, just to get to know a little bit more about Nick, Nick is an account strategist at Google. Outside of his professional role, Nick also serves as a mentor at the Digital Summer Clinic, where he shares his knowledge and experience with the next generation of digital interns, offering guidance and support to help them thrive in the industry. His passion for helping others grow, helping others grow paired with his extensive career experience makes Nick a valuable asset to both Google and the Digital Summer Clinic community. So we're just going to hop into the very first question. So reflecting on your time in the Digital Summer Clinic internship, what would you say was the most valuable lesson you learned during that experience, and how has it shaped your career path, especially now working at Google?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thanks for having me, first of all. Nice to see you, Justice and Nora. I think looking back at when I first started as an actual intern within the clinic, one thing that I really wasn't exposed to before was just the network of people that you like meet and then get to know throughout the different experiences you have here. So not only like the other interns you work with, but unlocking those contacts at the companies that you're working at as well. I never realized that there is a whole network of this like startup community in like the Washtenaw County area and in Ann Arbor, and being able to be exposed to not only them, but then like your direct superiors. So like the CEO of the company that I was associated with was just kind of insane networking. And it's something that I think we don't like talk about enough, even though I always talk about it every time we jump on here. Because I think there's so much power in that. No matter like what you want to do, being able to have that network, create a great LinkedIn, make sure you're staying in contact with those people. I think that's what really separated me from others, just like, even at the university, because being a commuter, I'd never had any of those contacts. I think the only person that I was like connected with professionally was my aunt, who got me my job at like the concrete company before I got into like the digital space. And so that was my only connection, and I totally exhausted that one like immediately. And then for me, it was just about, okay, well, what's next, and how do I, get beyond that? And for me, it was the clinic and being able to get that great exposure, and then just building up that network. Because when it came time to leave my startup and go to iProspect, managing the paid search campaigns for GM and Cadillac, I was able to go into my network, book coffee chats, ask questions, and really just learn about the role that I wanted to get into, which made me feel a lot more comfortable making that jump. And same story for Google. That was a big jump going from like the agency to like a vendor team like we had at the agency with Google and other different networks. So for me, being able to go in, I had only like a few Googlers, but I was exposed to them through the clinic, and being able to jump on the phone with them or go grab coffee somewhere in downtown Ypsi was really what differentiated my success, I think, from others, because I'm like an extreme introvert. It's hard for me to like, go out there and have those like conversations, but I knew that was something that I needed to do in order to progress my career. And I'm glad I did that, because I think it really did net out to where I am today, because I just took that leap and then pretty much just, was in that uncomfortable zone more often than I would personally like, but it really does pay off.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely relate to as an introvert. Like, there was this one event I was actually going to go to that the Digital Summer Clinic was hosting, and two of my friends actually bailed on me, and I really didn't want to go to the event, but I was like, okay, I actually like I need to do this. I need to build my network. Like, everyone's saying like you need to connect with people, and I went to the event, and it was like probably like the best experience I've ever had. Like, not only did it like show myself that I can like take the initiative and I like can do like things by myself, but also like it was like such a great experience, like connecting with others. Like, again, like Kim had that networking session that really helped me. Also just like talking with other students my age helped a lot. And especially like being in the internship program, you'll be with people that are kind of like sharing those experiences working in a startup, kind of like having those same challenges because it is a startup. You'll face challenges, you'll have obstacles, but you'll also have the support of the other interns and also the mentors on the team too. So,
Yeah, that's a really good point, and you touched on something as well that I kind of want to tie back. Where
mhm.
I talked a lot about the startup community and making those connections with the people that are already professionals, but definitely don't sleep on connecting with your peers as well. And I think as a class, obviously, like the internships, like growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger every single year, which is amazing, but just making sure that you're forming those connections with your peers will last you a lifetime. I'm still connected with all the people from my start class. We still catch up here and there. And then honestly, if anything like were to happen and you needed to get back into that job market, those are the first people that I'm reaching out to, are the ones that are at like, Career Now Brands, or they're at General Motors, all these local companies where they're already well established, especially by the time that you're like years away from the clinic. Those are going to be connections that are going to last you a lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely like having that experience with the internship and also like as a student really helps you kind of build your network and be connected with people that are like have your same interests. Being like in the business school is very helpful as well.
Mhm.
And that kind of like leads us into our second question. So, as someone who's now a mentor for the interns, what are some of your biggest changes that you've noticed in the internship program since you were part of it? And also, what advice would you give interns looking to make the most out of this program?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So outside of obviously it just like doubling and doubling pretty much almost every year in size, it's getting
Mhm.
bigger, which is also making it a lot more competitive. I would say the challenges are the biggest difference. I think the work that I was doing at Genomenon, which is the internship that I was like, or the startup that I was paired up with during the internship, I had a lot of different like workflows and projects that I was managing. They're going to be so different to what I'm hearing, especially, being a mentor, like starting last year and during those like weekly syncs and check-ins, hearing what all the other interns are working on. I just could not believe it. There's AI, some of them are working through coding already and like, fixing the website. They're already presenting like data in the form of solutions and being able to like tell that story. I think the tools and what we have access to via AI is really changing the game, and I think that's making it a lot more competitive to get in. I think people are starting to realize that the clinic is awesome on your resume. It's starting to become very widely recognized. I think across like Southeast Michigan, it's just like growing and growing beyond that. So I think not only is the impact that we're having as a clinic growing, but just being able to be technologically savvy and then being able to solve modern problems with modern solutions is something that I continue to realize and see.
Yeah, no, I can most definitely agree. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense because just adapting to like different workflows can definitely be a challenge, especially as the program continues to grow and evolve with all the tech startups that we have for all of the interns. But it's really great to hear like how those changes have kind of shaped the experience for
Mhm.
the interns and for the mentors as well. Because I know that you guys probably see so much. But on that note, I can imagine that working at Google definitely comes with its own set of challenges as well. So that kind of leads us into our next question. Being in such a dynamic role at Google and working with the interns, how do you manage to stay motivated and continue learning in your own career, especially in such a fast-paced tech environment?
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot, especially during the summer and when we're really like in the thick of it and doing the weekly check-ins and then like the weekly in-persons. I think there's a big time commitment, especially like for me having a very busy 9 to 5, which is usually like an actually like 8 to 7, just because the hours really start to add up. But what keeps it fresh, just being at Google, or honestly, just how fast the digital world is moving and all the changes associated with that. So it doesn't matter what time of the year, what season we're in, or even like what day of the week it is. There's always a new challenge, and then there's also always something that you could be learning and exploring that really like keeps the job fresh for me. So even right now, I'm getting a lot more like onto the YouTube side, so just learning more about video and just how that relates to ads and the strategies around that. and being able to tie things that you're interested back into your job, and honestly do your own research outside of the job itself, and just making sure that everything is remaining fresh and relevant for you. I think that's what keeps me going, and taking that knowledge back to the clinic is something that's like my favorite thing to do ever. So if any of the interns ever have like Google Ads related questions, which do come in, I think that's one of the like the major products that a lot of interns are offered up, is managing their Google search campaigns and being able to help them, because I'm very passionate about helping these smaller companies compete against some of the larger ones. And so being able to strategize with the interns and have them take back these strategies like coming from Google, I think is a game changer for them. And that's where I get a lot of my energy from, just being able to help out and kind of guide them. And hopefully some people stay with it and then maybe even want to work at like an agency, or even come straight to the source, come directly to Google later on in their career. I would love that. Like I would love to be that connection for them on LinkedIn, like we were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah, I would definitely say like what attracted me to like digital marketing and like marketing in general is like being in that digital world is so dynamic, and there's so many things that you can learn, and it's always changing. Especially like what you said about AI, like there's so many like loopholes and like things that you need to learn about AI, whether that be like the ethical part of it, like using it like to actually streamline efficiency, like different things. Like there's so many like different factors that come into play that are like so interesting to learn on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's never boring.
Yeah, for sure. So we're at that point where we're going to turn it over to some of our Q&A questions. So the first one we have is from Bud, and he says, Nick seems like a really good networker. What is some advice for introverts who want to network? Are there strategies to overcome shyness?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And for me, it was like a lot of things in life where it's just doing it, right? Like I think it's the reps that make it easier, and then becomes more of like a muscle memory thing. Where one thing that I always like to think about going into any event, even currently with like the like Digital Summer Clinic, is would I regret not doing that later on this evening? Like if I get home, am I going to think about not going up to that group of people where I overheard what they're talking about and I have relevant knowledge, or it's a topic I'm curious about? If I go home and I could see myself just sitting on a couch with my dogs and just being like, oh man, like I really wish I would have spoke up and said something. That's what drives me to kind of like, just swallow that nervousness, go up to them and make that connection. And really it's just like the future aspect of it, and the potential of making those connections is massive. I think for me that's been the game changer. I think it takes seeing it in practice, being able to plug into that network and ask your network different connections, or ask your connections different questions, or if you're looking into getting into like their company or even their field, being able to just have that option available. That's what drives me. And so for me, I never want to regret not making those connections at all. So that's how I always overcome networking. And it's just about the reps, right? There's really like no trick that I have besides that. It's just doing it. And I can tell you this, like I've done it a lot. I do it now. Like I've been traveling a ton for work lately, and you'll never regret doing it. You're never going to like, after you approach somebody, after you meet them, you're never gonna be like, oh man, that was so stupid. Like even if you stumble on your words or say something you didn't mean to say, they're not gonna remember that. They're gonna remember that connection because they know what it takes to come up to a stranger and be able to like shake their hand, introduce yourself, and then ask them questions. I think that's also what it ties back to, is just asking questions and getting to know them.
Yeah, I actually really liked your example because it's kind of reassuring to hear. Because I feel like a lot of interns going into this role, or people who don't really have like much experience, they kind of think that it's a like the networking is only for naturally outgoing people, and everybody always is like very afraid to go up to people and
Mhm.
just talk to them. But I realized, at least through the past few years, like actually networking with people, they're doing the same thing as you. Like they want to get to know you probably just as much as you want to get to know them. And it's just kind of like you said, treating it like a muscle memory. So that
Mhm.
definitely makes a lot of sense. Nora, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm the same way with you. Like, obviously, like, an introvert, and like the biggest motivator for me is like regretting something.
Mhm.
Like I went to this conference in Tampa for one of my clubs, and again, like huge like networking opportunity, like so many entrepreneurs in the room, but very overwhelming, very scary. But I really wanted to like learn more from entrepreneurs, kind of see like their perspective, what they're learning, what advice they could give me, and also like just knowing that like we're all human, we all want to connect, but it's just like who's gonna take the first step in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well put.
Yes. So our last question we have is also from Bud, and he asks, "What is the biggest difference between YouTube ads and search ads?"
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've been at Google for 3 years now, and in just digital marketing for a lot longer than that. So for me, I'm very familiar with search. I would say the biggest difference is where they are in the funnel, right? So when you think of search, that's intent driven. Somebody's looking for something, they're going out of their way to put in that search and then get that proper results, and you're just hoping that your keyword, which is like the like identifier for your ad, is relevant enough to capture that sale or that conversion, which could be like a lead form, it could be anything. So for me, that's where search is. It's very like low funnel, you're capturing that lead. For YouTube, what's really interesting about it is with a lot of my accounts, it seems like a lot of people have that really fully fleshed out. They have a great search strategy. They're pretty much capturing all the relevant traffic as possible. But the key thing that they're missing is that high funnel. So like kind of like the top of it right there, that feeds into campaigns like search. So on YouTube, you could target like awareness, you can target reach, you can even target for conversions, which is a little bit more of that mid funnel. And for me, that's very interesting, just being in like the lead generation space where a lot of people are tapping out on what's currently out there in the search side. They're invested into AI solutions like Broadmatch, or they're already in like value-based bidding, which is really prioritizing, okay, how much like money and profit is this conversion going to give us. And for me, it's just it's a brand new challenge. I'm like, okay, now I need to learn like the YouTube side, and then how do we feed that funnel? It's always about feeding the funnel, especially when you're tapped out in search. So those are probably like the biggest differences between the two different products.
Okay, so those were all of our questions. Before we head out, I want to thank everyone again for watching the Digital Live, and thank you again, Nick, for joining us. It was great having you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And then to our viewers who are watching, continue to keep up to date with our digital live events this winter. Our next live will be on March 20th at 5:30 p.m. Also, if you're interested in applying to the Digital Summer Clinic, visit our website at digitalsummer.clinic to apply. Applications will close on April 25th. So we will see you at our next digital live.